Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining me. Now, first and foremost, I have some incredible news for you guys. You've been sharing my content like crazy, and I'm going to prove it to you. Go to DuckDuckGo and type in "coronavirus was engineered," and then hit the videos tab and tell me where our video is ranked. #1 in the fucking world. We definitely are starting to get some reach. Now, I have an update for you today about the virus, and it's moving in the exact direction I've predicted from Jump Street. Now, it's still end over end going up at a 28 to 30% rate in both deaths and infections. That dropped for a day. However, I think reporting might have just been low, or the system might have actually hit that point where it's overloaded. Now, what we have to realize is there's more than one epicenter inside of China for this disease now, which is exactly what I predicted was going to happen. And you're going to see the rest of the country succumb to this within the next 2 weeks. We have very, very interesting developments economically coming out of China. Just as I've predicted, this is going to destroy their economy. Now, when markets reopened, they lost 8% of their markets in one day. $400 billion gone off of their market. Now, China and their government decided they're going to do what China and their government always does in these situations. So what they did is they approved $300 billion to be given out for loans. This is what China always does. They always manipulate their economy and their currency. So they have $300 billion approved to give out for loans, which will give a false inflation to the economy. So the numbers aren't going to look as bad as they actually are, which means they lost far more than 8%, because what they also did is inject $22 billion of liquidity into their stock market in order to make that hit not appear as harsh as it actually is, even though 8% is the worst economic hit that they've had in one day in over 50 years. That's saying a lot, and it's only going to get worse. This has the potential to bring China to its knees economically. And I honestly think that that's why they're doing this first and foremost, because it was going to happen anyway. And now they can blame it on the virus instead of the economic genius that they were forced into dealing with. Now, there's very interesting developments coming out of Hong Kong as well. And we need to pay attention to this because we're going to see other countries face the same problem. Hong Kong is completely overwhelmed, okay? Inside of Hong Kong right now, the doctors are going to go on strike today. Thousands of them. They're not going to work. They've had enough of it, and they're done with it. It's because the borders between Hong Kong and China have not been closed. Now, they say that it's a semi-autonomous region, blah, 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 blah. However, that's not the case. They're taking the orders directly from China. Now, what happens when all of those doctors decide to just walk off? You open up the possibility of creating an epicenter inside of Hong Kong. And now by China not closing the borders, you have to ask if they're doing that on purpose, okay? What you see in Wuhan is absolutely terrifying. They're telling you that they've built a hospital in 8 days. All right, let's think about this logically. Do you know the sanitary precautions that have to be taken when you're building a hospital, the materials that you have to use, all the codes inside of the United States, which I'm sure they don't have in China, but I'm just using that as an example. The cleanliness of a hotel or even a clinic. You can't build that kind of facility in 8 days, no matter how hard you try, no matter what the resources are. Now, the people that were building those hospitals were definitely forced to build those hospitals. They were conscripted to do it, and they had no say in the matter. All right? Do you think somebody who's being forced to build something where they're in harm's way and they're under all of that stress is actually focused on delivering a quality product, or do they just want to get the product done and get the hell out of there? Now, what we're really witnessing is they've managed to build two very big quarantine centers, all right? And there's no way, just based on the amount of beds that they have available inside of those hospitals, that they would ever be able to give supportive care to the amount of patients they're planning on putting in these buildings. There's not enough respirators in Asia to do that, all right? So basically what you're going to see is they're going to fill these buildings up and lock the doors and say, anybody that's alive in 2 weeks, we might let you out. Now, we also have reports in China coming out of Wuhan and other regions. People are actually going on WeChat, which is wicked popular over there. It's their only way to talk, but whatever. Anyway, if you post anything to WeChat that goes against the government narrative, they are literally investigating and imprisoning your families until they find you. There's a guy out there right now, and I'll try to find the link and put it in the description below, but he is in tears at his friend's house because his parents have been investigated by the government because he's out there telling us the truth. He's talking about people dropping dead in hospitals, dead bodies in the hallways of hospitals. He actually has this on video of a woman holding her dead grandfather, and they've been sitting there for almost 24 hours in the lobby of this hospital. If you're telling me they're trying to treat this disease inside of those provinces, go find somebody else to listen to and unsubscribe. Good riddance. Because you need to open your eyes and realize what's actually going on here. All right. Now, we have 9 confirmed cases inside of the United States and 2 more suspected cases on top of that. One of them is actually an infant that is 1 year old. It's going to be very interesting to see. Hopefully he developed a fever after being in contact with somebody who has the disease. Hopefully the little guy doesn't have it and he's just going through what everybody else is. It's flu season, right? But if he does, it's going to be interesting to see how he reacts to this disease, because it would be one of the first cases of an infant getting it where we actually had the supervision to see what happens. With all of that being said, the United States has stopped anybody that is not a U.S. citizen who has been to China from coming into the United States. And anybody that is a U.S. citizen who's coming back is now subject to a 14-day mandatory quarantine. We already have people on the ground in Southern California who are going through their quarantine right now. None of them have displayed symptoms. They will be on a military base for the next 14 days. We have another plane load of people who will be landing this morning, and they're going to a base north of where the other quarantine people are. And hopefully this isn't all a little bit too late. I'm glad that they've actually taken the route of keeping these people there for 14 days instead of 72 hours, which means they know that this thing is far more serious than they've let on. They're telling the American people that this disease right now is low risk compared to the flu. Anybody who has friends and family living in even a small town understands that once one person in a small town catches something like strep throat, for instance, everybody does. All right, it goes around, spreads like wildfire. That's how these things work. That's how these diseases were designed to manipulate the human body. Now, what we have to realize is this is a hyper case of that, right? It has a vastly higher infection rate. All right, now, the flu, as I said, spreads like wildfire. And even though there's a low risk of catching it, once somebody you know catches it, it's almost a guarantee you're going to. Same thing's going to apply with this virus, if not be multiplied tenfold. Now, like I said, take the precautions to protect yourself. I can't say this enough. Me and my girlfriend yesterday, we went out and we stocked up on dry foods, lentils, rice. It may not be palatable. However, it's more than enough to sustain you for the 2 weeks. You may have to quarantine yourself away from other people, even if you aren't sick. Now, I also suggest you take the advantage of being able to buy surgical masks. I suggest the M5 surgical masks with an actual ventilation device in it that fully seals around your face. You will be seeing me shave, God forbid that happens, but we have some on the way here. Because there is a case that just happened less than an hour and a half from where I live at UMass Boston. And what terrifies me about how this kid came into the country is it was before they shut down the borders, right? It was before they were testing everybody coming back from China. That's why it all might be a little bit too late. So this kid was on a plane with God knows how many people. He walked through Logan International Airport and came in contact with God knows how many people. He contacted his doctor, thank heavens, and actually went and saw him and then was put under quarantine in his house, and the CDC's on top of it, etc. However, they have their work cut out for him because he could have literally come in contact with hundreds and hundreds of people, and those hundreds of people came in contact with God knows how many people, and then it just spreads out from there until you can't keep track of things anymore. It's going to get to a point where even in the United States that we can't contain this. So once again, like I said, be prepared. I also want to tell you guys, we need to stop panicking. I'm not saying all of us are, but some of the comments that I've seen, especially with the urgency of wanting me to post updates, like the information we're getting, there's not enough new information on a day-to-day basis for me to make a video that's worth watching. And at the same time, I do not want to sensationalize this to the point where my channel grows because of this. And after this thing is taken care of, hopefully, you guys all disappear on me, right? I'm not saying that's going to happen, but that's a possibility I have to look at as a content creator, right? So you'll be seeing these updates, but it wears on me mentally, for one. And two, the information is so not concrete that I don't want to be telling you guys things that may or may not be true. Now, there is one thing I want to address here, and that is the rumors that this virus is genetically similar to that of HIV. Now, there is a patent number from the 80s on HIV. Now, there was a report, and I think this is where this rumor started circulating, that there was a company out there who used HIV medication to treat this virus, and they actually had success in it, blah, blah, blah. So the article said, but it was false, right? However, the rumor still seems to be persisting. Now, if that rumor has any legs to it at all, it just points to this thing being engineered even more. And what we're seeing with this thing is it's continuing to pick up steam. As I said, there was a day where the reporting went down to 15% increase in both infections and deaths, and then it jumped right back up to 28%. Maybe that was an evolution, like the virus started to become ineffective, right? And it mutated, and we saw that giant leap. We don't have enough information to say that's what happened, but this virus has the potential at any time to mutate into something far deadlier. And what they're not telling you is the infection rate and kill rate of this thing is astronomical compared to any other virus of its kind. So just keep that in mind. Be prepared, be safe, don't panic, and control the variables that you can. Use common sense, and we'll see you on the other side of this thing. It's not going to end humanity. There's too many of us out there that, believe me, I ain't going to let a virus take me out. Not after everything I've had to fight through. You guys have a great day. Have a great week. God bless you and your families, and I'll see you guys soon.